Hello, everyone, and welcome to another authentic conversation. And I'm your host, Adele Bernard. And I'll just want to share a little bit about what I do, who I help, how this podcast got started. So, my company is called Transition Clarity, and it's all about helping people through the crossroads of life, whether it's divorce, losing a job, going into retirement, or just getting a better connection with those you love, like a better connection with your kids, your wife, your husband, your best mates. How has this crossroads in your life shown up? And it's all about taking that pause, getting clarity to make it through the transition. We are in very interesting times, and everyone's being asked to step up in a different way, in their own unique way of how they show up in the world. And if you want to know more, please reach out to me. I'll have everything in the show notes of how to reach myself and also all our guests. And let's get started. Today, I'm excited to have Scott Doggett on the call. He is the founder of the National Academy of Leadership Development and the author of Priceless: See People Differently, Lead People Better. After more than 30 years leading teams and developing leaders in the hospitality industry, Scott now leads a movement focused on rehumanizing the workplace through servant leadership and people first cultures. Scott believes that when leaders truly see people as priceless, culture change, and so do the results. And I also agree with this. I'm excited to have this conversation with Scott, and I know you will enjoy this also. And without further ado, let's bring Scott on. Okay. And here you are, Scott. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
It is so great to be here, Adele.
Great. So, as we start out the show, we always go back to a little bit about tell us your journey in your own words because the audience has heard the what you've said, this crunch version of how you got to where you are today. But I want to hear from your own words, like this is quite the journey. Like 30 years in an industry that you never thought you'd leave
Right.
to wow, what am I doing next? So,
Yeah. And it really did start as a kid growing up in a small town in New England and going to growing up in a congregational church in a very small community.
mhm.
It really did influence uh, that journey, that 30-year journey. I am obsessed with servant leadership. It really is in my DNA. It is what I teach today. It's the style of leadership that I tried to practice for those 30 years and taught
Mhm.
in many, many workshops. And it's the centerpiece of my book. But I really did start learning that and experiencing that as a child growing up, and those lessons that we learned as kids growing up in church, but also going to a very small school. I went to a K through 12 school in Maine that was about 300 students, literally 300 students, K through 12. And my dad was head of the middle school on this one campus, right? And so I couldn't get away with anything because everybody knew my father, and but I got to see him in action as a leader, and he was
Mhm.
absolutely a servant leader. And I never really thought of him as a boss. And I don't think the faculty ever thought of him as the boss because he served from his heart and he took care of the faculty, and they were over our house on the weekends for cookouts. And so he was my first kind of role model and example of what a what a servant leader really is. And obviously Jesus, and in my faith, was the
Mhm.
ultimate role model of servant leadership. But I think that was what really started me off on that journey and inspired me to want to be a servant leader, learn about servant leadership, and really uh, uh, nurture that throughout my career.
Well, and that brings back the question of, so yeah, you couldn't be the rebel kid because you're in a
Oh,
small town. Everyone knows you. Your dad's working at the school, right? But how did that your group of friends like did they stay in that servant leadership in their careers or they go totally off in their own path and direction once they left
I
the
think
small town?
for the majority of us, I think it has stuck with us, and I don't know if it's
Okay.
the small town uh, factor or I don't know if it's geographical, if it's environmental, or but I would say that again, we were such a small group. I graduated with 40 kids in my class uh, my senior year, and I would say that we many of us have stayed in contact, and I would say most of them have definitely have that servant
Hmm.
leadership type heart for sure.
Well, and it's interesting because I could relate for this small school because when I graduated, it was the biggest the town had ever had at 110,
Oh, it is big.
right? Well, no, but I mean,
Yeah,
like we were the majority of the school that year too, right? Like
yeah.
once we left, the school shrunk at at 300 and whatever. And but it was just interesting how like I couldn't imagine going to school like my friends did with 5,000 kids,
Oh, I can't imagine either.
right?
And I think it really it was even in the community, right? So obviously you must have grown up in a smaller community, but just even walking up and down the sidewalks, I mean, you didn't walk by someone without saying hello and greeting them, and
Yeah.
everybody knew everybody. And so I think that is also part of when I talk about servant leadership. It so much of it is getting to know people and getting to know their story
Hmm.
and seeing them based on their worth and as a human being. And I think part of that does maybe come from that small community upbringing.
Well, and I think it was funny because I lived on the outskirts of the city, so my parents would have to pay for me to go into the city or take the bus to the small town. So I was really in that like city in
They've
the
gone either way.
weekend, country in the like it was kind of crazy. But anyways, I
Best of
learned a
both
lot.
worlds.
But the thing is that when you come into society now, because of the last 5 years, people are scared to say hello.
Yeah.
Like heaven forbid if you're kind to somebody, they might fall over. And I'm like saying, like this is why I was excited to have you on the show is because that servant leader is the one who's going to start shining
It is
as we
the
come out of this craziness of how do we trust our neighbor?
yeah.
Or, like, can we trust where we work, right? Because you worked in a industry for 30 years, which is
Yeah.
a thankless industry, right? Like the hospitality
Yeah, it
industry
certainly
is the
can be.
most thankless industry with the highest expectations.
And a lot of turnover, and you really have to love it to stick with it. You really do have to love it. But you're right, we're we suffered a lot, especially to your point, coming out of COVID and the wake of damage that was done to especially workplace culture and
Hmm.
to I experienced it, right? So when COVID hit, companies had to pivot really quick. They had to adjust just to survive and just to keep the doors open. And so they they had to cut expenses. They had to do whatever they had to do to survive. And so what did that mean? That meant furloughing and laying
Hmm.
off people. And it meant when it looked at budgets, it was all the people and cultural programs that got cut. So it was team recognition, it was team building, it was learning and development programs, it was even community service initiatives and D&I programs, and all of those things went away just so that companies could keep the lights on. And I think
Hmm.
all of that really did a ton of damage. And there's a lot of organizations that still haven't come back from that.
Hmm.
And now you couple that with now we're in this era of AI and the stress that people are feeling, not knowing if their job's even going to exist in another couple of years. And so now, yes, I believe servant leadership is needed now more than ever, just to bring that humanity, that love, that kindness, that respect into the workplace so that we can help rebuild and rehumanize the workplace once again.
Well, and I think that's where it's more important, right? To just don't sit back because you have a job. It's only our grandparents, maybe parents, that could guarantee they had a job. And even they couldn't.
Right.
Our generation is like, our generation is said to have anywhere between 5 to 7 careers, not jobs, careers. The younger ones are up to 15 careers, like going back to school, re educating, relearning. Or they don't even go in a career and they just go straight into entrepreneurship,
And that's it.
right?
And now it's two, three, or four different jobs that they're doing at the same time,
Yeah.
right?
And it's like, and you kind of go, what is this? What is this creating? And
Yeah.
yet I know we're moving into that less hustle, more community, back to unity, knowing your neighbors. I just know that in my heart. I have no proof. It's just
No,
what
I'm with you.
I just
I
what I
think when the pendulum
understand.
swings one way, it has to, right. We have to kind of, it's an overwhelming problem. And I think anytime you have this overwhelming problem,
Hmm.
and I'm looking at it through the perspective of this workplace culture problem, you have to come at it with an overwhelming solution. And I
Hmm.
think, to your point, humanity and this type of leadership is that overwhelming solution. Because I
Hmm.
think you're right. I think even the younger generation is experiencing that, and is looking for less AI, less technology, and more of the analog experience, and more or of those hands-on type experiences. Because I think even my son is 20 years old and in college, and he puts the phone down and he's really looking for those real life in-person experiences,
Yeah.
which I love. I'm happy.
Well, and it's interesting because I was helping somebody look for work the other day. And I said, what about a startup? Too much chaos. Not with the right CEO. Because this is how I'm seeing it. I could be totally wrong, but the people that are coming to me are saying, I've done the big corporate nameless thing. I don't want to do that anymore. I wouldn't mind just working with 5, 10 people where the CEO comes and sits with us. And what do you think? Nay? Yay? Like what are these ideas? Brainstorm with us, break bread together, become more of a family. Yes, the CEO will always have the final say, but he's not an island. His team is working with him. And I think that's the difference that we're going to see, right? Like
And
uh,
that's
like
that,
like even when you go back to your industry of hospitality, I don't care what city I was in, what country I was in, you always found that 1 or 2 shining stars, whether it's the bellhop, the chambermaid, the whoever that you remember. And if you had people going to that hotel, make sure you talk to Pedro, make sure you talk to Sally. And they go, wow, what an experience.
and I guarantee you, those the best hotels that you've stayed at, I guarantee you, those general managers of those hotels were just like that CEO of the startup you just mentioned. They were out walking around,
Hmm.
engaged with the employees every day, not locked in an office and looking at
Hmm.
data and doing reports. Because that is the key, is creating that environment where people feel part of the team and feel heard and seen by leadership. And so I think that is a big key to it for sure.
Hmm. Well, and I think we have to come back to service because I actually kind of like whether it's COVID or not, I kind of said I'm kind of done with restaurants
Mhm.
because you're paying a lot of money and they don't care that you're there. Like I'm going, wow. But they expect a good tip.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened to the smile? You know?
breaks my heart. Because yeah, service is service. That's you get into the industry because of you want to take care of people, and that's what attracted me. Again, even as a kid in sixth grade, I knew I wanted to get into this industry and serve people. I just enjoyed seeing the smile on people's face after putting on a function of any sort,
Hmm.
and I think yes, people need to make money and it is a job, but for people that make a career out of it, it really is. You need to have that heart for service and wanting to take care of people.
Well, and I just look at the famous people like Sandra Bullock, Kelly Clarkson, who have a joke about, oh no, we couldn't do the jobs we do now if we didn't sling beer in the craziest bars. Like,
Hmm.
right? It's like
Yeah,
move out of the way, right? Or you're buying the tray, like your choice, right?
yeah, yeah,
And they're not like these big burly people to pull through. Like, I mean, they're little women, but
yeah.
they knew how to handle the crowd and get their job done with a smile.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great industry. I mean, it builds character,
Mm-hmm.
and to your point, some people use that and builds the character, and then they move on and do completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
And then other folks use that experience and they move up in the industry. And I will tell you, a majority of the people that are even in executive roles in corporate hospitality brands started off as dishwashers and front
Yeah.
desk clerks and bellmen and literally just worked their way up through the industry.
Yeah. So you didn't start the academy right away. What was that transition job? What was that transition?
So it's an interesting story. So yeah, at the end of 2023 is when I walked away from hospitality and I went on this journey to, I said, God gave me these skills. He's developed these skills in me for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, maybe there's a better use for these skills.
Hmm.
I turned 50 and I decided, maybe I've got a finite number of years left and maybe there's something else I could do with these skills to give back to the world in some way. And so I went on this journey and it led me to this nonprofit organization called World Vision.
Hmm.
And I prayed over it and I asked God to just show me what he wanted me to do. And I tell you not when I, I, I got this job posting in my inbox after I was praying one night, and it was from this World Vision organization, and it was for Director of Christian Leadership Development. And now I was a vice president of learning and development, my last company, and I'm like a director. Why would I even apply for a director job and Christian leadership development? I've been in hospitality for 30 years. I've never worked for a Christian organization or a nonprofit. I've done some volunteer work, but there's no way this is going to be a good fit for me. But when I opened up the job description, it was like God answered my prayer. Every single bullet on the job description were things that I literally spent the last 12 years building in my previous role. It was a perfect match. And so I got the job, I joined this organization and fell in love almost instantly.
Hmm.
And then, unfortunately, 9 months into it, we were hit with the Doge financial cuts, the foreign aid cuts that happened at the beginning of 2024 or 2025. And so I was part of a layoff at the beginning part of 2025, only 9 months in. And I thought, oh, like I felt like the rug was just pulled out from underneath me. And I thought, God, you brought me there. It was clearly a calling, right? I thought I was going to be there for the rest of my career. I was ready to retire at this amazing organization doing incredible work around the globe to help the most vulnerable communities. But what I realized pretty quickly, Adele, was that God brought me there for a reason. He brought me there for 9 months so that I could experience servant leadership in a way that I had never experienced it in the 30 years of previous work. It was an organization that every single executive, every single leader was a servant leader. And they had built, for 75 years, they had built this organization around servant leadership. And I have never experienced a culture like that. And the results spoke for themselves. The voluntary turnover annually for that organization was in the single digits.
Yeah.
And I came from, and I know hospitality is notorious for its turnover, but we would get to 70% and we would be celebrating and throwing pizza parties.
Yep.
And so to have something in the 6 or 7% range was incredible. And it was because people didn't want to leave because the culture was so beautiful. It was everybody was treated with respect and kindness and care, and people were listened to and valued. And so what I realized was God needed me to go there, see that, experience that, so that I could then go out and write this book and create the workshop and put the academy together and go out and recruit other faculty members that have the same shared passion so that we could go out and show organizations that this works, right?
Hmm.
This really does work. And you don't have to be a nonprofit. You don't have to be a Christian organization. It because again, the way it's set up at World Vision, it's the same as any other corporation. There's
Hmm.
IT and finance and legal and
Hmm.
marketing, and it's all the same departments. It really is just how you look at yourself as a leader and what your role is as a leader and how you see people. Right? Do you see people based on their inherent value as a human being, or do you see them based on their title or based on how good of a performer they are or some other factor? And so again, that's something that we can teach and we can inspire, I think, in any type of organization. Even the big huge mega corporations can adopt this style of leadership and see incredible results.
Well, and I think it comes down to too, what line are they using on their tax return,
Mm,
right? Like nonprofit, like profit, like
yeah,
whatever. It's a line, but
yeah, it doesn't matter
it's
what
coming
results you
back
see.
to the how does the company want to run and treat the employees?
Because at the end of the day, it's the employees that drive the results,
Yeah.
right? You can't get results without employees. So you could have the most, you could have the smartest strategy. You could hire the best firms and come up with the best tactics
Hmm.
but if you don't have an engaged workforce to
Doesn't
bring that to
matter.
life, it's worthless.
Well, and it was
Yeah,
funny because I've done a lot of functions and used to tour and people would say, "Why do you go to the bellhops for information?" And I said, "Because they don't get any kickback." And they
mm,
go, "What do you mean?" I said, "The concierge gets kickback. The front desk can sometimes get kickback. The bellhops get no kickback. So you get the real truth, what they go to do." Because they've worked hard for their money. So they're not going to go to the fancy dancy, steak place like on the main street. They're going to
yeah,
go down through the back alley, through the alleyway, and they're going to find a better steakhouse for half the price.
they know the
And they're
good,
like,
yeah,
"Are
hole
you
in the wall
serious?" I
kind of
go,
places.
"Absolutely." Because that's where they're going to spend their hard-earned money,
Mm, I love
right?
that. Yeah, yeah.
And I mean it was even so that we found a local pub or bar in Hawaii, and we were there a long time. Like we were there 6 weeks, and they're like, "No, you're one of us. No, we're going home." And they're like, "You can't be going home." "Yeah, we're going home." Right? That they had a little party to say there's no way they're Canadians. We're going home.
That's the
Well, who does
Ohana
that?
spirit. I
Right?
love the Hawaiian
Because
culture.
it was under the fancy one that
Mm,
overcharged. We went into the basement.
I love it.
Right? And so yeah. So, what was the biggest strength that took your knowledge of the hospitality industry, moving into a servant led company, to now doing your own academy? Like, what was that key moment, key strength that says, "Oh, I'm following God. I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing," without
Yeah, I
freaking
think
out now that you're 50?
well, I think that I have been teaching. So I spent the first half of my career in operations. So I ran hotels and resorts
Mm-hmm.
and absolutely loved that phase of my career, that season of my career. And
Mm-hmm.
then I kind of found passion in training and development.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the out of that 30 years, the last 15 years, so half of it was in training and development. So I did a lot of leadership development, a lot of customer service training, a lot of that type of work. And so I had a chance to really train it and to teach other leaders how to be good servant leaders. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's I've been talking about it for so long, and it's I'm so passionate about it that I've even taught at the local UCF, University of Central Florida here. I've had an opportunity to teach a couple of classes and talk to students about this style of leadership and the benefits that come from this style of leadership. And so when the situation happened at World Vision, and I heard the calling from God that, hey, listen, I brought you there for a reason. You need to go out now and spread this and create a movement around the country. It was a no brainer for me because I knew, listen, I've been training for this for 30 years. This is what I've been gravitating towards, I've been thinking about, I've been talking about, I've been obsessed with for literally 30 years. And so now I get to focus all of my time on this one topic that I am just absolutely crazy about, which I love.
Awesome. And I love your
Yeah.
passion. Like,
It's,
well, because sometimes you get into conversations and it's just like, oh Lord, how long do we have? Right? But it's like you could be talking about the phone book. Well, if people remember that. But, and it's like you just know
I
your
remember the phone book.
heart's there, right? Like, and I think that's the biggest shift we all need to do is whatever you're doing, mowing the lawn, shoveling the snow, like making dinner, whatever, have that passion, have that excitement to whatever you're doing it the best of your ability.
And I think too that a lot of my passion comes from even the pain that I experienced
Hmm.
in throughout my career in having bad leaders. I've had some really great leaders and I've had some horrible leaders. And I say horrible leadership. And because again, I am a true believer that everybody is, as a human being, is priceless.
Hmm.
But behaviorally, I've worked for some leaders that were not servant leaders, and I've experienced that. And then as a coach and as a especially in learning and development, working with different teams and seeing different leadership styles and seeing the impact that those styles have on people, not just on productivity and results, but on the impact that it has on people's sense of worth and the value that they feel like that they have, uh, really inspires me to want to uh, help solve that problem, right? To help develop leaders to see people based on that worth and to see themselves as, hey, my job as a leader is to take care of my people. Like every day I come into work, it should be about, hey, what can I do for you? What do you need? Because if you're successful, then we are successful. And getting to know you and getting to know your strengths and getting to know your struggles and your goals and aspirations, and that becomes fun now as a leader because now I'm championing for you, and
Hmm.
servant leadership isn't about giving everybody what they want or telling them what they want to hear or avoiding the hard conversations. It's anything but that because you now want to have those hard conversations because you want to help that person succeed. The difference is you do so with love and with respect and with dignity, and the other person feels that and they know that your motive is coming from a good place. So, again, when we create that kind of environment,
Hmm.
it is the only way, I believe, that you can get employees, team members to feel safe and feel valued and feel seen, and then want to give that extra effort, to give those creative ideas, to raise red flags when they see them. Because otherwise, you and I know, right? You become apathetic and you do your bare minimum and you collect the paycheck, but the organization is getting the bare minimum out of you, and so they're getting, at the end of the day, the bare minimum results. And
Hmm.
I think there's a false sense of celebration sometimes at the end of the year when, oh, yay, we made a profit. But I always question executives like, what could have those profits been had you not had 70% turnover and your
Yeah.
engagement scores weren't in the toilet, right? What if you had a much stronger, healthier culture where your employees actually were happy and enjoyed coming into work and felt respect? You could have doubled or tripled those profits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's true because we have to look at um getting more humanity back in humans.
Yes.
We're not
Especially
we're not
today.
rocking walking robots with a laptop,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
And especially today, because we have the robots, we need that extra humanity right now,
Yeah. Well, and
more because
it's
people are scared of the
interesting
robots.
because as we talk about AI and stuff, it's really interesting that people are saying, well, it's taking away jobs. Yes and no. No, for the fact that if you're using AI in your job to figure out strategies, bring more information to the table, more brainstorming ideas, You're not losing your job. But if you are sitting at your desk using AI to go, oh, just send out something, I don't really care, you're getting flagged. There's the door.
Mm.
Because you're lazy. Now we just have proof that you're lazy, right?
And I'll tell you from a leadership perspective, in our workshop, we actually have leaders brainstorm the best use of AI because we address this. We modernize servant leadership for today's workplace. So we talk about the beauty of having this new tool at our disposal because what it can do is give us back time that we've never had as leaders so that we can go out and spend more time with our people. So this is a great way when we talk about needing to rehumanize our workplaces.
Mm-hmm.
AI is actually a tool that can enable that. And so
Yep.
now we have time that we can go out and do more team building and mentoring and coaching and more learning and development because now there's no more excuses. It's not going to take me 8 hours to work on a PowerPoint presentation that would normally have taken me 8 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have like an AI coaching tool that we've developed for the program, but we've done that to show how you can use a tool like that in conjunction with your human coach and mentor, not to replace,
Mm-hmm.
but to supplement and augment that human mentor and coach. And so we kind of address that in our program. But you're right; it's got to be used the right way. It should not be used as a tool that signals that this is replacing you. It should be used to do that administrative work, the busy work, free up time so I can do more creative work or more value added work. And I also think that organizations need to approach this from a as a community. Like let's come together and figure this out together
Yep.
because there's a lot of fear out there, and there's a lot of, hey, you better figure this out, or else you're going to become obsolete, and so that fear is causing a lot of. There's a lot of talk right now about AI adoption failing, and the failure is not because of the technology, and it's not because people aren't getting trained or they don't know how to use the tools. The failure is becoming because people are resisting it because they're scared of it and they're afraid that it is going to replace their job or it's going to make them look stupid or all of these reasons. So we
Mm-hmm.
need to look at kind of that change management piece and I just remember coming out of college in the 90s when the kind of that .com era was here and Excel and email and PowerPoint were just being introduced. And I was working for Marriott, and I remember one of the vice presidents at Marriott coming in, and I was like a lonely frontline manager, just starting off. But I remember him calling all the managers together and saying, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
we've got these new tools. None of us know what these are or how to use them, but we're going to learn together." And we're going to take some community classes together. And we did. We all went to like the community center and took Excel classes. And then we came together and figured out how can we use this and infuse it into our work. And it was fun. It wasn't a scary experience. It was a way to actually bond us and bring us together. And it didn't matter what your title was. We were all kind of on that same level. And I think we should treat AI kind of in that same way.
Well, and that's even scarier to think like, oh yeah, we always didn't have those tools.
Yeah, right.
It's like, yeah, we have.
Never had,
Oh
yeah, we didn't have
no.
Google. Yeah, Google didn't exist at one point.
I know. No, but I
Imagine.
like I remember going with a coworker to um not well, Excel but more Visio classes going. Well, we've
Uh,
had this all along. Why aren't we using it? Right? And then and this way, like if I was making up a presentation, I'd do it in Visio so my project managers wouldn't screw it up because
uh,
they knew PowerPoint. So I'm like, I'm ahead of you guys. You can't get around me. But yeah,
yeah, I just
no.
think
Well, and it's
I was just
interesting,
saying,
right? Because the tools, even like I remember, um, as a project coordinator, and all my PMs were just like going crazy on me. I'm like, what's going on? And they go, I tricked them. So I put it all on their phones that they had to breathe every hour on the hour, and they couldn't take it off. I was in control of it. Some got taken off earlier than others, and I'm like, well, they're like, why'd you do that? And I go, because you guys are crazy. I have to bring you back into yourselves, right? So I did a little magic in behind. Um, so what? So who are you looking for your academy?
Right. So there's two parts. So I've got a growing faculty that I am putting together. So right now we have 20 amazing faculty members from across the country. These are leadership experts, gurus, executive coaches, and trainers that are passionate about servant leadership, that are certified and licensed to train our Priceless Leadership Workshop and certification programs, and are ready to work with organizations
Okay.
to again help them create this type of people first culture and to teach kind of this modern day servant leadership style for organizations that really want to or recognize that we need to rebuild culture. We need to focus once again on culture and our people, and we're doing so in a way that. And so, yeah, the second part is any organization. We're really appealing to any organization that sees the value and understands that if you want sustainable results, and I'm not talking about the results that they've been trying to get for the last 3, 4, 5 years and trying to just scrape to try to get through the quarter or try to get to the end of the year and try to see some numbers in black. But I'm talking about if you want to grow for years to come, we're at a moment in time where we really, the only way to do that is to create this healthy culture. And culture comes from those leadership behaviors every single day, right?
Hmm.
It's the stories that employees tell themselves about their experience and what they're experiencing day in and day out. That's the truth of what a culture, right? It's not what you write about in the employee handbook or what you paint on the wall in the employee break room, right? It is the reality of what employees are telling themselves. And so we need to shape that story. And that story is shaped by the way leaders, right, treat you and treat me and uh, each and every day. And so uh, that's the so we're trying to appeal to those organizations, but we also recognize that budgets have been cut. So we have purposely made everything very affordable. We even have a lot of free tools because we don't want there to be any barrier uh, for for entry, if you will. Any organization that wants to bring this into their organization, we want to help them do that. And so that's what it's all about, the movement. We're not trying to make millions of dollars. It's not about the money for us. It really is about the movement and trying to help, again, develop leaders and help organizations thrive
So,
in
what
this new
about if
era.
you're not an organization? Like, is there
Yeah,
a facet that of this work that you're doing? Because I love the work you're doing that
yeah,
could help smaller companies or entrepreneurs or
yeah, for sure.
that, you know, in the
We have
grind every day and going, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah, I tried to think about all the different kind of where people are at in their leadership journey and the different size of organizations. And so, yes, if you go to our website, we have some free resources. One of those free resources is a book club version of the workshop. So the workshop is an in-person experience. We purposely
Hmm.
don't have a virtual class because we're trying to rehumanize workplaces, and so we really want to bring people out of their element for a day and inspire them. It's kind of like I call it like the Ebenezer Scrooge experience, where it's meant to really inspire a change in people when they leave the room. We bring them back to their past, we examine the present state, and then we bring them to their future to talk about legacy. But um, that we do charge for a little bit, but we
Yeah.
have the free resources. So the book club is if you have a small office and you pick up a copy of the book, there is a 4 week 30-minute a week format that we give away for free, that the small team could lead themselves through a valuable experience about servant leadership. And there's assessment tools in the book, so you can take an assessment and find out what kind of servant leadership you are, or servant leader you are, because it's not one type of personality, right? I
Hmm.
think some people think you have to be like this warm and fuzzy person to be a servant leader, and that's not the case, right? There's all different types of leadership styles.
Yeah.
And there's also for the individual learner, because I know there's a lot of people that just like to teach themselves.
Hmm.
We have a self study guide, a self study journey that we give away for free also on the website. So it's a 12
Okay.
week journey where you go through one chapter a week for 12 weeks. And we've got some journaling exercises, and we encourage you to get a coach or somebody to share what you're learning with and someone to teach what you're learning to. But that's something that we give away for free as well.
Cool. And I like that. I like that you have made the different tiers because maybe someone's just like doing their own thing But then
Yeah.
they do the self study and then they go, oh no, I really miss like the corporate, the whatever. Or maybe they're in corporate going, no, I'm too tired of people. Like,
Yeah. Yes.
I can serve better by meeting, Joe or Sally at the coffee shop and just mentoring and doing mentorship
Yeah.
for
Not
half
everybody
an
likes a
hour,
workshop.
right?
Yes. No, I get that
And
for sure. We even have,
yeah.
and I failed to mention, we even have an executive retreat version of the 1 day experience. So for
Hmm.
executives to be able to look at things through their perspective, right? Because
Hmm.
they are the ones that ultimately control the programs and the systems and the org charts and all the things that need to be looked at when creating a people first culture that we help coach on as well post if they do our workshop, then we have the opportunity to stay engaged with them if they want to help them continue to build upon the foundation that we help them set. But yes, you're right. There are people that have different learning styles and different stages in their career. And so we try to think about all of those things and putting this ecosystem together.
Well, and I just think about, this is going back a few years when I was in corporate. They were burnt out
Yeah.
trying to keep
There's a
up
lot
with
of
the
burnout.
workload, let alone
Yeah.
pushing half the workload down the pipe. And we were like, no more, right? Because one of the reasons I truly feel I left corporate was I was doing the job of three people, and I'm like, this isn't right,
Yeah.
right?
And
And then I'd
and
say
it's
something to the managers, and they're just like, we don't know what to do. And I said, well, can I at least get a free student? And
like an
yeah,
intern.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, and I got a practicum student, so it was free to us to bring her in. Well, she blew up my world. And then I went, what's going on, God? Am I not supposed to be here anymore? And he goes, no. I go, okay. And then I went, do
Oh,
do 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 do.
and that's what a lot of people are experiencing right now, especially again
Well, I
with
know, but
after
I did it
COVID.
back in 2013. Like,
Oh, yeah, what's happening? Yeah,
it's been
and we
13
should say
years.
right, this isn't a new thing. Like this has been
Yeah.
going on for probably forever. But I know nowadays that people talk to me all the time about what you just said that they're doing more. The people that didn't lose their jobs uh, have been now asked to do more, right? And so that burnout is happening. And so again, this is if we want to take care of our people, this is the only way to do so is really to shift our perspective on what our role is as a leader, right? Is
Hmm.
our job to keep pushing down, uh, you know, on our people and saying, I need you to do this and I need you to do this for me, and keep piling on to our
Hmm.
people, or is it what can I do for you to lift that burden off of your shoulders, right? And to make your life easier and so that you can breathe and so that I know what you're going through and I can help make sure you have the tools to do your job and you feel valued and respected and appreciated for the work that you're doing. And right, what there's two different approaches and they lead to two different results. And so
Yeah.
we're trying to obviously teach the latter, but again, you can't force people, but to me,
Well, and
again,
it's, yeah.
you can't force people to give again you can't force people to be engaged.
Yeah.
That's the one truth that I know to be true.
Well, and it's funny because I just had the thought of when one of my managers, he's like, well, I know what will help you. And I said, what's that? He goes, what if I give you your own private printer? And I
Oh,
looked at
that'll
him,
help
no,
solve
no.
everything.
And I said, I appreciate the offer, but if I don't force myself to go to the printer at least once a day, I would never leave my desk chair.
And you take no steps. Yes.
And he goes, oh, right? Because I mean, like my role had some high confidentiality to it, but
Yeah.
that's why the printers had lock functions that no one saw what I was printing. But it was just
Ah,
so cute. Like he was really
yeah.
in his
Right.
heart trying
Right.
to help, but I was like, I
Good
need to
intent.
move. That's
It's
so
funny because
funny.
a story like that, it's so funny because we talk about how every interaction, right? When you walk away, that employee is telling themselves a story about that interaction. and it's either a positive story or a negative story
Yeah.
or neutral, right? If you're just asking for, what time it is, it's probably a neutral story, but right, you've got to kind of assess, is it a, because those negative stories are what drive those negative behaviors or those feelings,
Mm-hmm.
right? And those negative feelings are what really determine the level of satisfaction and which drives performance and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's what we really try to help leaders see is the impact that they have. And it's not just in the moment. Some of those
Mm-hmm.
decisions, some of those things that we do and say to our employees, they stick. We do an exercise in our workshop called the story wall, where we ask people to think about a time when a leader made them feel either priceless or worthless. And we
Yeah.
have them write it on a post-it note, right? We just have them write, what did they say or do that made you feel priceless or worthless? And then we post these stories along the wall and we walk around, we read these stories. And then the kind of one of the follow-up questions is we ask people who share, how long ago was this? And these were things that happened 10, 15, 20
Yeah.
years ago, but they stuck, right? So that's the ripple effect of leadership. And so again, just being aware of that, I think it really does help us be more more focused on what what impact we have as leaders. And so even
Mm-hmm.
right, the leader that offered you the printer, right? Just a conversation about would that be helpful, and then you could say no, uh,
Yeah.
because of this, and then he could say, oh, okay, and right, he make sure he's not leaving you in a worse state
Yeah.
than he found you,
Oh yeah, no,
right?
I appreciate, like, I so appreciate the thought, but I was just, it was funny because one of the other ladies that worked on a different team was down the hall from me, and she was complaining one day about gaining weight. And I said, "Are you open to the truth?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Get rid of the printer they gave you." She goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "You don't move. You
Wow,
turn from your desk, like your chair, from the computer to the printer and keep working.
10,000
You gain
steps.
10 pounds." Like,
Yeah, it happens
yeah.
fast.
And she's like, "Oh my gosh." I go, "Or if you don't get rid of it, just unplug it." Like, and
Even those employees,
it's those little interactions that we have no
yes,
idea the impact,
yep.
right? It's just like one time I walked in and we're all waiting for the elevator banks, and I went, "Weird. Have I gone to Mexico all of a sudden?" And all the Spanish guys look around and they go, "Pardon?" I go, "I thought we were in Calgary. I didn't know we went to Mexico." And they started laughing. "It's just easier to talk in Spanish." I go, "I'm just saying. I'm not trying to eavesdrop, but you know, what you do in your home is your business. When you're in the
Mm,
workplace, the common ground."
mm.
And that could be my own pet peeve. I don't know. Um,
But you're right. The culture is it happens in the hallways. It happens. It's
mhm.
everything that happens in the margins. It's not the big town hall meetings. It's not the big right annual reports. It really is. It's the little things like you said that happen every single day that really define what people think of that experience.
Yeah, yeah. So, as we're starting to wrap up,
Yes.
what are some key lessons or tools that you want to share with the audience?
So my biggest one is again focusing on when you see again for leaders. That's when you see you're a person that reports to you.
Hmm.
But I would say this applies to anybody. When you see any other human being, is when you see them, is to see them based on their worth as a human being. Because here's the thing: every time we see anything, we tell ourselves a story about that thing, whether it's a person, a place, or a thing. We immediately tell ourselves a story. Our brain works at a rate of 2,000 words per minute.
Yeah.
We're only able to comprehend about 400 words per minute. So we don't comprehend all that story, but it's going on all the time. And
Mhm.
so what we tend to do is we tend to put an immediate label on someone. And so it's either, oh, here comes my top performer, or oh, here comes my lazy employee, or here comes that chatty Kathy. And so we start putting labels on people. And based on whatever that label is how I treat you. It's how I respond to you in that moment. So if I
Mhm.
see you as an annoyance, then I'm going to treat you as an annoyance. And then over time, then you start feeling like an annoyance. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's how for leaders, if we can focus in on the fact that every human is priceless,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's our inherent value. If I can see you based on that, then that's how I'm going to treat you. And that's how you're going to start to feel. And that's the first step is understanding that the way you see people is the way you treat people. And that's, again, the way they're going to feel. And so it's hard. I know it is hard. And it takes constant practice and conscious effort. Like, practice it though. Practice it in traffic when someone cuts you off. You can say, you know what, that person is priceless. They're a priceless human being.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that they cut me off, but you know what? Maybe they just found out their wife is in labor and they're rushing to the hospital. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on in anyone's life, right? But so that's first step. And then the second step in leadership for us is to recognize that every single person is so uniquely different and has such unique different skill sets and strengths and things that they're not good at and different goals and different places where they're at in life. And so the key to leadership is getting to know each person on your team at that level so that you can lead them and adjust your style to meet them where they're at. And again, get to know them so that they can feel seen. And then you can start to align the work with their skills and their strengths and their passions. And then you can look out for opportunities. When you hear about a workshop that's coming up, in your leadership meeting, you could go, oh, I know Sally wants to
Mm-hmm.
get into that kind of role. I'm going to go and tell Sally about that workshop. And then so now you're starting to really engage with your team. And now they in turn are going to start feeling valued as a valued team member, respected, seen. Oh, and now I really like being here. I really enjoy and I feel safe. And now I'm going to start to give more of myself and more of my energy, my creativity. I'm going to be more of a team player. I'm going to do all of these things that then lead to greater results for the organization. I think it's the hardest part of leadership. The hardest part of leadership is literally getting to know each person on your team and creating those personal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the budgets, it's not the strategy decks. You can learn all that stuff. It really is taking the time and not seeing like, oh, I have 5 engineers that I have on my team that I manage, or thinking, oh, the way you manage front of house people and back of house people are different. Because now you've fallen into a trap that all people that work in front of house act one certain way, and all people that work in back of house operate a certain way. I worked at one resort that was huge. It had 2,400 villas, and it
Oh,
had
wow.
we had at one point like 1,800 employees. And in housekeeping alone, there were 300 housekeepers. And it was very easy on a Friday when they would gather in the morning for the pre-shift meeting. It was very easy to look out at a room of 300 housekeepers and just see 300 housekeepers and not see 300 individual, beautiful human beings, each with their own story, each with unique
Mm-hmm.
skills, right? And that's the challenge for leadership, is to really understand that difference between worth and then understanding that, again, everybody is so uniquely different. And to me, that's the fun part of leadership. And again, I don't know about you, but when I'm done with this whole journey, uh, I want to be able to look back and hopefully know that I've had a positive impact on people's lives and their careers, and
Mm-hmm.
not be known for the spreadsheets and the budgets and the presentations that I gave. Right.
Well, and it brings me to what Gary Vee was saying the other day of I don't care if that person's making me $100 million on the bottom line. If he's a nasty person, bye bye. There's the door. I don't tolerate nasty people. I am kind. I'm going to be kind. Yes, I swear, but I'm still kind in it, right? But and also servant leadership also comes home to the home. How are
And
you
that is
serving
it.
at
Yeah,
home? Because you know what? Your kids are watching everything you're doing. Your wife or your husband is watching everything you're doing. If you have all the niceties and caring in the office and you come home and you scream and come, doesn't work.
you're
It's like
absolutely
the
right.
front of the
And
house,
that's
the
what I
back of
love.
the house.
Yeah, I love that because it does. When you build this kind of culture and you start to transform into this type of leader, A, I think you find it to be so much more rewarding.
Hmm.
But B, it does, it transfers into our homes and it also transforms into our communities. So it really is an opportunity. Because to your point earlier, we it's the way we treat our neighbors next
Hmm.
door. It's the way that we treat the mailman and the person at the 7-Eleven counter. And it really becomes contagious. And
Hmm.
I think, again, this is a great way for us in this day and age that we just need to be kinder to each other. And I think that this is for me, this is my contribution, hopefully, is that we can get into some workplaces and help make the workplace a little bit kinder and bring some joy back into some into some workplaces.
Well, and I also, in wrapping up too, is like if you don't know your neighbors, how are you going to pull together in a crisis?
Hmm.
So how about meet them before you have to deal with the crisis,
Yeah.
right? Anyways,
And I'll leave you with this. One of my
okay.
favorite quotes from Mr. Rogers growing up. It was one of my favorite shows. And he said something, and it's stuck in my entire life. He said on one episode, he said, "When you get to know someone's story, it's hard not to love them." And it always
Mhm.
kind of stuck with me because everybody has a story. Literally, we had our garbage pickup was today, and I saw the garbage driver, driving his truck, and I looked up and I just think, I wonder what his story is. Like he's got a story, right? He's had struggles and right? He's got probably kids and everybody has a movie inside them. And I just think that's so cool. But yes, when you get to know somebody, you get to know that story, it just changes things. You get to see them at that human level and you start to treat them differently. You treat them much more humanely and with that respect and kindness. So in leadership, it's the same thing. Get to know your people.
Well, I have a garbage truck story then. Because
Okay.
I used to wonder, like, why would you want to be a garbage man?
Uh,
And
Before you start, I'll let you know that was the first thing I wanted to be when I was a kid. That was my first dream job was to ride on the back of the garbage truck because it looked so cool. But go
well,
ahead. Sorry.
Ed, the answer from the one gentleman I talked to, he says, I love to have my afternoons. I said, meaning what?
Right.
We're done the garbage pickup, clean up everything by 2:30.
Beautiful.
So he has 2:30 till 5 to do whatever he wants before the afternoon of family happens. So he'd go skiing, he can go golfing, he can run, he can do anything. And I
Beautiful.
went,
It's like bakers. Bakers are the
brilliant.
same way. Yeah. I love
And
that.
and that stuck with me because when I got into corporate, I was like, why do we come to work so early? Because Calgary is a 7 to 3:34 max town,
Mm.
right? Because they want to go out and enjoy life. And I'm like, right, this industry is my garbage truck.
There you go. There you go.
And
Very
they
deep.
used to make a lot of money. Back in the day, they were very, very well paid because they couldn't get people to do it.
As they should be. As they should be. That's yeah. I think about like the housekeepers in hotels. They sometimes get paid more than the front desk folks and some of the other roles because, hey, it's the hardest. It's the
Hard.
hardest job in the hotel. They work the hardest. If you've ever cleaned rooms before, it is not easy.
No.
And so, yeah, we whatever we can pay them is they deserve it for sure.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
It's been so much fun. I've
I
had so
know.
much fun today.
I was just like, yay, we're gonna laugh and have some good times. And so, once again, this is Authentic Conversations. I'm your host, Adele. Today's my guest was Scott Doggett, and thank you for listening. I just want to recap the conversation that we had with Scott. What a wonderful way to look at leadership, to bring in the servant leader, which is, I believe, is different. It's a grounded leadership. It's having faith. It's knowing that everything you're doing is for the highest good of you and your team, your family, the greater good of your community. And as Scott said, he has a lot on his website where this will be in the show notes of how to get a lot of stuff for free. Like, who offers a lot of stuff for free to help your community? And so I think that's a beautiful way to maybe start integrating his work into your life. You could do the 12 week program with a friend or a colleague and see how it goes. Or if you have a small team, like he said, three, 4 people, read a chapter a week, come to the boardroom, once a week for half an hour. Not a lot of commitment, but who knows how much growth you could get. I think it's a great idea. And I really do love the idea of bringing back community, bringing back the unity of one. And here at Transition Clarity, we believe in that. That's why we are all here. I especially am here to help you through those crossroads. Like if you have gotten laid off, or you are thinking of divorce, or you have had someone die in the family, those crossroads are a waking up point of what is next for you in your life. And you don't have to do it alone. That's the biggest thing. Is people think that, it's shameful that they're getting divorced or like, why did I lose my job? Like, I was a good worker. And with that, we just want to say they're all true. But sometimes it's God's way of saying, we have a bigger life for you. And are you ready to step up into that life? So, once again, this is Authentic Conversations. I was your host, Adele Bernard. All my contact information will be in the show notes, and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, thank you.